My name is Taylor, and I play in the bands Blizzard Babies and Split Feet. And I'm going to talk about this record because it's, if not one of my favorites, then my favorite. I'm supposed to say that the other way around, right? If not my favorite, then one of my favorites. What do you want to know about it?
The lights explode, she stood burning in front of me. She ripped my heart out, my eyes been open, cemented to her face. Have I begun to feel shame? I'll be down, I'll be around, I'll be hanging where the eventually will have to be. I'll just stare and hope you care.
It was the first thing that immediately came to mind. I think when I think about all the records I've ever liked through the whole course of being someone who likes music, there have been a lot of changes, a lot of things that haven't really stood the test of time or I've gotten over or just not into anymore. But this one has been like a favorite for probably like 15 years, I'd say. It's definitely, there's just like something about it that is classic. I feel like, you know, you hear it and you know it's a Dinosaur record, and yeah, I just love it. It's I was listening to it in the car on the way here because I was almost like doubting myself, like, oh, maybe I should have picked something else, but it was like the pace of it that was like really getting to me when I was like driving in the car. Like, it's just so, it's not a fast record, but it's like fast paced. Like if it were a movie, it would be like really action packed and exciting. They're definitely intense, but they're not wanky at all, which I really appreciate. And I feel like the whole album itself, it has a lot of texture to it, so it's not like just really loud, like high in the mix solos. They kind of just blend well with everything else. But yeah, the solos are insane. And it's also, one thing I think is really weird about this record is that like Jay Mascis was just kind of like telling everybody what to do and being like a real dictator about everything. But I kind of wonder if that like is what made, not that it made the record good because his ideas were so good, but because like everybody was so pissed that like they just like had to prove something. And so I feel like that's a kind of energy that's in the record that's pretty cool.
Yeah, there's sort of a frustration to the music.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's kind of weird to think too about like being in a band with people that you really hate or people that are really like pissing you off or that you don't get along with at all. And I know like the title comes from like a fight that they had on tour. So it almost, yeah, it makes me wonder if that's what makes it so good. Sort of. I think it kind of helped me appreciate noise on top of just classic song structure. That's always something I really liked. I was probably 19. It would have been 2001. I guess depending on what time of 2001 it was, it would either be Boyfriend or Ex-Boyfriend's CD. So I had a tape that was the very first record on one side and then this record on the other side, and I had one of those like bright yellow Walkman like Sportsman, and I would walk to the train and back. I was living in Cambridge, Massachusetts, and so I'd walk around to the train and walk around town listening to that tape. And 2001 is kind of a weird year when I think about it. Like there was kind of a really weird progression of really bad things that happened, with like 9/11 thrown in there too. So it was like intense stuff, and breaking up with someone that was probably like my first real boyfriend. And it wasn't even like a bad breakup, but it was definitely, I felt pretty directionless and like didn't know, you know, like where do you go from there, and also felt just really stunted. I was 19. I'd been with him since I was 16, so I think there was a lot of like I just didn't know what to do. So I think that's kind of something that I picked out from the record. Like the songs are just all about like trying to get someone to notice you and being like kind of pathetic, and I really connected to that at the time. Yeah, so I remember like listening to, I think my favorite song on it might be Raisins, and I remember the line about I'll be hanging where eventually you'll have to be. I remember like hearing that and thinking about a guy I kind of had a crush on and being like, oh, that's a really good idea. Like I'm gonna wait outside this building that I know he has a class in, and then like he'll come outside and I'll be reading like Pablo Neruda, and I'll think I'm really cool. So I remember just kind of really relating to every single like losery thought on the record. And it's funny, I feel like, I mean, I don't know if Jay Mascis thought he was like cooler than like Virgin Lou Barlow at the time, but I mean, he's as stupid and dorky in these lyrics as any young person. I think they were pretty young when they made this record, like 22 or something. So I could really relate at the time, definitely. And definitely I think like the Lou songs on here, I think it's pretty much a general consensus that they're like pretty bad. But you definitely see like with Bug, like I've always kind of read that was just like Lou Barlow doing absolutely everything, and I feel like those records and then like the totally absent of Lou Barlow records, there's just something not as good about them. Mm-hmm. So even though he might have not been like the head dork, there's just something missing, even if the songs that he did himself are kind of stupid. I remember actually being really poor and going to a record store to sell a bunch of my records, and they had the Freak Scene 7-inch in the case, and being like, okay, I'm gonna get store credit so I can get that, mm-hmm. and not taking the money that I desperately needed.
Yeah.
It was 2007, so it was shortly after they kind of like the Lou came back into it. I saw them at Abbey Pub, mm-hmm. and it was one of the loudest shows I think I've seen, and it was also one of those shows that like I feel like you get older, like you go to shows and you don't, like when you first went to shows as a kid, you kind of had this like really like anxious, like starstruck feeling, and that kind of went away as I got older. But that was definitely a show where I was like before they came out, I'm just like come on, and it was great. I think they played everything I wanted to hear.
Hi, Tay!
Hi, you want to talk about how much you love this record?
And this kimchi?
Yeah.
This is the best kimchi ever. It
smells pretty good.
I know. I left it in my car overnight, and I think it's still gonna be okay. So
yeah,
this is vegan. There's no fish sauce in this. It's fermented, so it's good for you. Also, this record.
Yeah. We bonded over this record a lot.
So many times. I feel like every time we drive somewhere, we
have to put it on.
Listen to this.
Yeah.
Most memorable, I'm thinking though, is driving home from St. Louis. It had to be not this time, but the last time, mm-hmm. and I received some really bad news that wasn't personal necessarily, but like really shook me up.
Yeah.
And then we listened to this, and I worried that that was the only thing I was going to think of when I heard this. And then I listened to it 250 more times and totally forgot.